Everybody, how you all doing today? And let me just bring up the chat. I really should look at the chat while the intro music is playing, but I was busy posting on LinkedIn so for the last minute or so. But yeah, how you all doing today? Oh, John got in the first. What's up, John? Good to see you. First message, very quick. And so let me scroll down a little bit. We're not going to do any ROP today. ROP is like way beyond what well, like my capabilities, but we're going to change some like web vulnerabilities and think about like when we find something, what does that give us, and then how we can move forward and things like that. But if you're into low level stuff, then yeah, nice, that's awesome. But I don't know, like to me it's all just craziness. So yeah, reverse engineering is not my forte, but it's all good. People enjoying the techno, which is good. Let me scroll down a little bit. So we'll probably do like 15 minutes of Q&A, and then we'll jump into a box. And then, I don't have my usual like, stuff on screen because Restream was, I don't know, messed up. So now I'm on a weird setup and everything is wrong, but it's all good. You just got to go with the flow and not stress too much about these things. Let me keep scrolling down. Is this for beginners? Yeah, I think like when we get into the box, I like to think that I explain things so that pretty much anybody can follow along. So yeah, you'll definitely have something to take away from today. And if you have questions, let me know, because I'm going to spend 10-15 minutes answering all of your cybersecurity questions, at least as many as I can, because, I don't know everything. In fact, I know probably a very small amount of everything. So, yeah, less than 1%. So, but, some people like my opinions. So it's all good. The big thing is today we released PWPE, so the Practical Web Penetration Expert, which is an exam that I've been working on for a long time. And there are a couple of other exams that are like expert level, but what I really tried to focus on is not vulnerabilities themselves, but today we're talking about chaining vulnerabilities and understanding how things work. And I designed the exam that way. So if you really understand how vulnerabilities work, and you understand how web applications work and behave and things like this, then you're going to do well in the exam, because the exam is all based around you get something small and then you use that to move on to something else, and maybe that opens up a little of attack surface, and then maybe you find something else, and then maybe you're somewhere where you shouldn't be, and then you get some like critical impactful vulnerability. So it's all about finding those chains. And the other reason I designed the exam this way is because like if you just have a single endpoint and it's vulnerable to SQL injection, then a scanner is going to find that. And what's the point of us existing if all we're going to do is be human scanners? And so chain vulnerabilities, or vulnerabilities where you have to do a few things to get something to then enable you to do something, scanners can't do that. Scanners are terrible at doing this. And I know, because I've thrown every scanner against my exam box and none of them have found the path. And also, it is also based on an experience that I had in my previous job, where a team was consolidating their services, and I don't want to give too much away, but they're consolidating their services, and the things that are on the exam are things that we found when we were testing. And so, like, it's basically a real world pen test that I did that I've kind of recreated, and there's a few different paths. But that's the whole like philosophy of the exam, basically, is understand how things work. When you get something, think about where you can go next and what it opens up to you. And hopefully you'll all enjoy it. I got some good feedback from the beta testers, which was nice. We were running on a little bit of a slow server, so those who are outside of the US, apologies. Everything was a little bit slow, and I know it's painful to test things, but otherwise I got pretty good feedback and people seem to enjoy it. And one of the testers actually knew the application that it is originally based on, or the experience that it is originally based on from a few years ago. So that was kind of like quite nostalgic, which is quite nice. So yeah, I mean, I wish I could just take their application and just host and be like, this is it. But of course, you know, can't be doing that. So I rebuilt it to the best of my ability. What's this? You were hoping for some SOC investigation, but we'll settle for PWP. All right, all right. I'll settle if you're happy with it. I'm happy as well. I don't think you can get 50% off, but so I mean, what I am going to say is that if you're active in our community and you're an active, like, and you have like PWPE, for example, I reached out to people who, one, I knew were like senior web app pen testers and active in our community, two, people who had the intermediate web app Cert already. Basically said, hey, if you can do some beta testing for me, we'll give you an exam voucher. So all of the beta testers basically get a free exam attempt. So like I say, like if you're part of the community and you're in the right places, then like you're gonna get picked for things, and all of that is part of like the wider thing of like networking, who you know, giving back to the community and things like that. So you can always get things, little bonuses and benefits when you're, you know, actively participating within the community. So it's all good. But yeah, you can get 20% off for the summer sale. And if you if you go to my LinkedIn post and click on the LinkedIn post, then the summer sale goes through my affiliate link. So there you go. If you want to help me out, you can use that and go like the roundabout way. But obviously, if you just go to the website, then the summer sale is active, and you can go for that, and you're all good. But the more people who take it, the better. So all good. All right, let me come down and see if we have some questions. I'm a little bit behind on the chat, so I'm like 4 minutes behind. So just a heads up, I'm scrolling down, and let's see. Hey, what's up, Mary Ellen? Good to see you, as always. And oh, okay, Anusha. So I'm a cybersecurity student, graduated this May. Congrats. Which certification is better for the industry in the coming days? So this really depends on where you are, and also what you want to do. So for example, if you want to go into like pen testing or like AppSec or like a technical role, your certifications are going to be very different to if you wanted to go into like GRC or management or risk or something like that. So it's kind of tricky to say. This basically depends on what you want to do. What I would say is, if you want to go down the technical routes, stay away from like multiple choice certifications. They might be useful if you're trying to get a job in government or something like that, but do something practical. It's going to pay dividends throughout your whole career. So I'm not going to say like specifically which exams to do, because obviously if you want to do pen testing, then there's pen testing exams. If you want to do web, you know, like we have a bunch of web exams, and there's also like Portswigger, for example. But honestly, like if you want to go down technical, don't do multiple choice unless you really have to get like a specific job in a specific industry. So hopefully that steers you in the right direction without me being like, you know, this is the exact exam to take, because I don't know your background and where you want to be either. So it's kind of a little tricky to answer. All right. How do we know if something's a honeypot? Good question. This is probably a question for Andrew Prince, but honestly, like I've only ever seen one organization deploy and actively maintain honeypots. So I don't know. If it's too good to be true, then maybe it's too good to be true. maybe that's the way. But there are like a lot of systems that are like, I think years ago I set up an SSH honeypot and exposed it to the internet, and then like mostly it was like getting scanned, and then somebody logged in eventually and it just records what they do, and it kind of gives them fake results for like a shell. And when you type who am I, it gives like the current user and stuff like that, but it isn't like a real shell, for example. So I don't know, maybe try and run a command that is more complicated, and if it succeeds, then maybe it's not a honeypot. Not sure. Not a question for me, but question for blue team people. Oh, the question that's on everybody's mind: am I going to Black Hat? So I'm going to DEF CON. I'm not sure if I'll be at Black Hat though, but I will definitely be at DEF CON. So I'll be in Vegas in August. Hopefully it'll be as fun as last year, minus the luggage trouble, because last year the airline lost. Well, they didn't lose it, but it was like pretty much the whole everybody on the plane, none of their luggage arrived on the same day. Same with Jonah from Integrity. He had the same problem. I saw him as we were getting off the flight, which was kind of cool. But yeah, hopefully I'll see you there, and we can hang out and talk about how AppSec is the best in all of cybersecurity. I'll probably be at Black Hat London as well in December, since it's like local. I can just get a train into London and do that. So I'll probably be there as well. I usually try and hang out and see some people. That's always where I see James Kettle, and I say hi to him every year. I'm like, hey, I'm a big fan. And then I stand there awkwardly and then I leave, and that's it. So, but yeah, it's always cool to see him. And sometimes if he's got a talk on, it's good as well. All right, so let me keep scrolling down. All right, I'm 6 minutes behind the chat. Hold on, let me scroll down a little bit more. Let me see, what have we got? Oh, when do the beta testers get the patch? I think it'll be this week, because it only launched today. But I think probably by Friday, I suspect it'll come to you. If not, definitely by the end of next week. Like it'll be within the next week. We've got a list, and I think we just need to go through and go into the system and do it all. But yeah, appreciate you guys doing all the beta testing. We did find a couple of bugs, which was good, really helpful. And I also found so one of my previous colleagues who also did a test found an unintended path, which was quite cool. And then I also found an unintended path on my own application. So I found a cool auth bypass, which was good. So we fixed those. And if you're on the exam, the whole exam is meant to be a pen test. So if you do actually find an unintended path and it has like an impact, you'll still get points for it. I might fix it after that because it's unintended, but yeah, it's something to keep an eye out for sure. Let me answer a couple more questions and then let's take a look at a box. Is there any course on web app exploitation? All of my courses are on exploiting web applications. Every single one of them. I don't think I've done a single course that's not on exploiting web applications. So I did the practical API hacking, and then practical bug bounty, and then the web section for the PMPT, and then the practical web hacking intermediates, which I've got some cool stuff in the pipeline for that as well, like new labs and fun things. And then the web hacking expert level stuff, which dives more into like prototype pollution, a little bit of research, how to go deeper on vulnerabilities, code review, deobfuscating front-end code, stuff like that. And then, of course, all the exams to go with it. I think that's all of my courses. Yeah, I think so. I wonder if I have more courses on the academy than anybody else. Maybe Heath has more. I think Heath has the most, but we'll see. I'm gonna check and see. Let me keep scrolling down. Ooh, as TSIM scales, is there ever an option for AI grading reports? This is an interesting one. I don't think so. So for our grading, like some exams are harder to grade than others. For me, I find it quite easy to skim through and be like, yeah, they've hit like the main things, and then do it. I don't think it's a discussion that we've had, but it could be an interesting discussion for the future. But I don't think we wouldn't ever want like a false positive to happen where like somebody fails because the AI messes up or something like this. Like maybe somebody says XXS instead of XSS, and then it doesn't register it as like the vulnerability and doesn't give them the points for it or something. So I would be hesitant. We'd have to do a lot of testing, I suppose, but it could be an interesting one to like pre-grade and then sanity check, and then it could speed up the process. But I wouldn't want to like completely offload it. Also, there are some requirements. For example, if you want your certification to be like DoD accredited or something like this, there has to be some kind of like human interaction where it's checked. It can't be fully automated. So there are some like regulatory requirements around this, I think, which is kind of interesting. It's not really, I don't know much about it, but I know that there's some stuff around there. So all right, so let me keep scrolling down. Yo, what's up, Hamza? Good to see you, as always. Even if it's 15 minutes late. No, I'm kidding. You're all good. You're not late. I was just 15 minutes early. We're actually all just here waiting for you. And that's it. Hope you're doing well. Let me keep scrolling down. All right, let's answer 2 more questions, and then we'll have a look at this box. And it'll be a little bit short today because I don't think the box is super difficult. But maybe we can have some fun and be like, I'm only allowed to do what you guys tell me to do. And maybe we can solve this box as a group and just have some shenanigans. Let's see. And I'll give you hints. And then I'll do what people say, except for typing out rm, sudo rm rf, and then removing my whole file system. Any recommendation on which boxes can help for preparing for PWPE? I think Hollow is quite a good one on Try Hack Me. I don't think you need to do it. Like everything you need is in the course, right? And what I would say is for PWPE, practice your Active Directory attacks and make sure those are on point, and then just do the exam. Like, don't overthink it. I would say you can do extra prep, but I don't think that's gonna like. It'll probably make you pass faster the more prep you do. But I think if you do the course and you take notes and then you maybe go back over and review the key modules, then there's no reason why you won't pass. Maybe the first time you do it, maybe you're nervous or you go down a rabbit hole or something like this. But you know, once you've got like the first take out of your way, you do the retake, you'll smash it, I'm sure. All right, let me answer one more question. Oh, this is an interesting one. This is actually a really good question. So I'm learning pen testing. Most of the labs are out of date. Should I keep trying to answer these? So the thing is with pen testing, nothing really has changed all that much. We have some newer vulnerabilities. Yeah, 10 years ago, we didn't have Upturnal Blue. We didn't have Print Nightmare, whatever. But also, like, we still see the same issues. We still see a lot of old CVs. We still see a lot of the same techniques and the same methodology. And the same methodology that I think worked many years ago still works today. And we kind of see this in AppSec as well. So yeah, we don't, I mean, like I haven't seen RCE in years, but for example, there was a time when template ejection was quite popular, as like lots of people were releasing new templating engines, and it still exists today, and we still need to test for it, even though it feels like it's kind of old. The only thing that I think that I wouldn't bother doing is like really old stuff, like null bytes on the, like as terminators on the end of like really old like Apache servers and stuff like that. But otherwise, like in terms of like, you know, like SQL injection, if you take that for example, SQL injection is like 20 years old. We still sometimes find it on pen tests. It's still something that we need to test for, and we still find it. Like, and especially with vibe coding, like it's coming up. I think like it's going to make a bit of a resurgence. But the way we find it, so we go in, we find an endpoint, we find a parameter, we fuzz that parameter, we look for interesting behavior or interesting responses. That is exactly the same, regardless of whether we're looking at XXE or SQL injection or remote code execution or any of these other injection vulnerabilities. And so really what I would say is, even if it's an old box, think about the methodology and think about the steps that you take and think about how things behave when you interact with them. And that's where the learning experience comes from. The actual vulnerability itself doesn't matter that much. If you can understand how technology works and how it behaves and what the response to a vulnerability looks like, then you're going to have a good time. I think that's like really, especially with AppSec, that's the trick. All right, let's move on to this box. Let me see if I've got this. Ooh, okay, all right. Let me go on to here. And let's see. I might have to hide the ticker if it gets in the way, but let's leave it for now, because everybody should be a part of the summer sale, because summer is awesome. It's nice and warm. It's not actually my favorite season. What's everybody's favorite season? Mine is autumn. Oh no, actually, is it winter? It depends where I am. If I'm somewhere where there's like proper snow where I can go snowboarding, then my favorite season is winter. But otherwise, if I'm in England, my favorite season is autumn. So there we go. All right, so I've got this box. Let me put my face out of the way. There we go. And I think I'm gonna, once I've done, I want to add a few more endpoints to CTF. This endpoint will at some point be on my GitHub, but it's not there at the moment. Let me check. Looks like we've got node modules already. Yeah, we're already good. Node app.js. Based on your experience, 0. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm not gonna rate 0 for that. Let's open this up and see what we've got. So we're running on localhost 3000, I think. There we go. All right, so I didn't set up images for this yet. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, let me pop this out of the way. Oh, there we go. And now we can see, I wonder if there's a is there a good place to put my face? Probably not. All right, so let's take a look at this. Right, so this is a button shop, the most exciting CTF that you'll ever see, which is buttons. Why not Kaido? Okay, next stream I'll use Kaido, because I do like Kaido is awesome. So next stream I don't have it on this box, but next one. I appreciate everything that Kaido is doing for the industry. Looks like we can add things to our carts like this. Oh. Looks like we can't. Maybe there's not enough stock. Yeah, there wasn't enough stock. Okay. So we've got a classic round button, a square metal button, and we can go to the checkout, and Burp Suite decides to freak out. That's fine. And then we can check out with test@test.com. And then we get this like order confirmed, and then there's a order link. So the reason there's like a unique order link with like a UUID here is because this application has no authentication, because it's not like a authentication CTF. So let's have a look and see what's happening in Burp Suite. So we've got get here. And then we've got post API cart. And then we've got another post where we're posting these buttons. And then we get /products2, which is interesting. And just for fun, let's see what happens if where am I? Dashboards, target, sitemap here. Let's try and scan this and see whether Burp Suite finds the issue. We don't need any logic. Let's leave the resource pool. And we can see whether Burp Suite finds anything while we're looking through. So get products, and then we've got a post /API/cart. And then we got post /API/orders. So here, so this is like our checkout. Okay, so this is what we checked out with. And then it does some stuff, freaks out with long numbers, that's fine. And then grabs the order confirmation. So I think the first thing when we're looking at applications and looking to try and understand how this works. So let me see. Okay, we're good. We need to think about like the attack surface, right? So we can see here that we've got a few API calls. So I feel like my font is really small. Sorry about that. So for example, post API orders, and then we've got post API cart. So the first thing to do is think about like what APIs exist that we might not have access to. So here we've actually got this get /products/2, and I think this is where we can find something interesting. So if we post this here, you can see that we get this like whatever square metal button, and we get this this result. What might be interesting is when we're working with APIs is testing different keywords and different paths. So of course we might try products, items, etc., etc. We might try like /v1, /v2. Obviously we're gonna like fuzz if we're gonna like test for a long list of things. But I think what we also want to do is like test get, post, put, delete, for example. So we can't delete products too, but maybe we can put. We can't put, but maybe we can. If we get, can we get products to? No. Can we put products to? And I'm doing this manually, but here you can see we actually have puts /products and then like the product ID, which is like this, right? When we're looking at our documentation. Now, obviously, like I roughly know, I built this application, so I kind of like, I know where I'm looking. But the point is here that when we're looking at APIs in particular, or web applications in particular, we need to be testing variations of paths and HTTP methods. This is something that's really, really important to look out for, because you'll find old APIs, you'll find legacy stuff that's still maintained because somebody's still using it. You'll find in development stuff. You'll find APIs that exist but nobody actually uses for some reason. You'll find something that was published because there was an intern and they built something, and then they're like, hey, look, it works, and then they just left it there. There are loads and loads of reasons. So here we have this put/product/ID. And the main thing here is, yeah, we get 400 bad requests, but we get error description, name, description, and price are required. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this into JSON because, one, I like working in JSON. But two, it actually gave me the response in JSON. So this probably means that it wants a response in JSON like this. So let's do name is test, description is test, and then price is, let's do 99.99. Now, I don't think this is going to work. And this is my first challenge to the chat, is that why didn't this request work? What's wrong here? What am I doing wrong? Why is it saying, hey, there's an error still? And while you guys are looking at this request and trying to understand what's going on, let me answer some questions. Are Burp Suite and Kaido the same? Not really. I mean, they're both different tools. They're obviously both like web app pen testing tools. They have different limitations, I think. So especially if you're, for example, if you're on the Burp Suite Community Edition, you're throttled in terms of intruder. So you could use Kaido for things like brute force attacks. I'd say Burp Suite has more plugins, but then Kaido has a nicer JavaScript engine, which you can use for like workflows and automation. I think for enterprise, Burp Suite Scanner is very powerful, and Kaido doesn't offer a scanner, for example, or at least not as far as I know. So they both have like pros and cons, like in terms of like what are their strengths and weaknesses, which makes sense. But I think this is a good thing because then you can choose the right tool for the right job. I like Kaido's UI, and I also like how things are laid out, and I also like it for testing APIs. I think it's much nicer. But Burp Suite also has a lot of plugins that are also really useful as well. So like, like the JWT plugins and things like this are really good. The Authorize plugin is great. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's sometimes hard to choose. Thanks for the super chats. Magno172. I have no passion for anything. I feel like there should be a question in there somewhere, which could be, why should I have a passion for AppSec? And my answer to this random question that I've just made up based on your comment is, I don't know, like, it's super interesting. Every web app is unique. It's fun, passes the time, and what more do you need than just fun, I suppose? I don't really have the best answer, unfortunately, but it's all good. All right. So, did somebody tell me why this request isn't working? I don't see it in the chat. Why is this broken? Come on, guys. PWPE, let's go. It might be there might be a slight lag on the chat, by the way. So, ooh, do we have a stream schedule? Yeah, we stream every Wednesday at 12 ET Eastern time, which is like 5 p.m. here in England. Yeah, so you can tune in every time. How to start with CTFs? The best thing to do with CTFs is either join like a beginner-friendly one like Pico CTF, but read a lot of write-ups. Try stuff, but then read write-ups and then follow those things. I would say, honestly, the biggest hack for getting good at CTFs really fast is reading every write-up that you can get your hands on, because you get to a point where actually you see a lot of the same repeating patterns, or you'll learn something that you just is almost impossible to find unless you knew anyway. And the only way to get that knowledge is to read a lot, and then you can use CTFs to work on your methodology and build your experience. So there's no shortcut to putting in the hard work, but yeah, reading write-ups, read everybody's blog posts is the way to go. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, here we go. I think cybersecurity course got it first. I don't see anybody else. Yes, we need the content type. Good spot. So, whoops, content type, application, JSON. And then we get 500 internal server error. Okay, so failed to create product. Interesting. So this is because we used an ID instead of a number. So next step in our fun chain is permission denied. You don't have the necessary permissions to update this product. Okay, so here I think for a normal tester, like or maybe like a junior web app tester, it's like, okay, I found this endpoint, I've tested it, there's an access control. What can we do to maybe keep moving forward? Like, what else can we test in terms of this this endpoint? There's collaborative CTF time, and while I think I might have just spoiled it because like it was because I'd written ID instead of 2 in the thing, but I'll give you all a minute to think about it. Okay, so a couple of you. So System and MD is saying try different methods. So the thing is if we try this is going to hit a different endpoint. So if we try post, for example, we can't post. We can't delete. This is definitely something that you should try, like head, options, and even get. So for example, you can actually, the payload with get is optional. So this is interesting, but we're restricted to this one HTTP method. So what else could we try, even though we've got permission denied? What's up, comrade? How you doing? Good to see you. What's the YouTube channel? It's, if you search for the Cyber Mentor, you should find it. What is this? Okay, let me read this. So set rules match users, user ID allowed read if request an auth, user authentication, Firebase on auth, user console.log, user ID. Nice. Code review time for Firebase. Oh, can the query... so here, can the query and the DB be exploited? So you're thinking like maybe what we could do is if we add like a single quote here, maybe we get like an error. Or like if we just do like or 1 equals 1, for example. So not quite. Maybe we can escape. Oh my God. What's going on? There we go. Escape one of the backticks. I like this. I like this thinking is like, yeah, maybe we can inject into here because this is like a valid injection point and we should definitely be testing to make sure that we can inject into here. And if it's a NoSQL database, then we can do NoSQL injection. But if it's, SQLite 3, which it is, or like MySQL or Postgres, then we can do standard injection. But I like this. I like this approach. All right. So the thing here is that if we try and put, which is like the normal update to a product, it doesn't work. We get access denied. But what if we try and put to a product that doesn't exist? And this may seem crazy, but I've seen this on a production app before, and I found this. And when the product's ID didn't exist, it created the product. And so we now are not blocked. So we bypass this access control because this product ID doesn't exist. Obviously, in the best case scenario is that it should say, hey, the product doesn't exist, don't update it. But for some reason in this this app that I was testing just fell back to creating the product, which, because why not? Hey, the product doesn't exist. Let's try and be helpful to the administrator. This is also an interesting one. Yeah, good idea from Louis, is that we could fuzz for parameters and see whether we could get something else out of this. I think this is a good idea. I think the other thing we could do is maybe add a header that makes us seem like an administrator or seem like our traffic is coming from somewhere internally. So like X forwarded for or authorization bearer or something like this. But these are kind of like wild stabs in the dark. Like, unless I knew more about the application, I probably wouldn't go down that route. But fuzzing parameter names is a good one as well. I didn't really think about that before. So here we've created this. So now what can we do? We can create products. There's our test product that we just created. What do we do next? How do we keep this chain going? How do we find some interesting impact? This is also a good point from Ethan. So yeah, I think often, like, if I was doing this on a pen test, I would grab this and then I would fuzz this parameter and see what else it might accept. Can we inject into here? Can we add text, for example? Can we add special characters? Hopefully the application doesn't just crash when we do this. But this is also a really good point. And this is the thing, like, this is how to be good at web app pen testing is thinking about things, hypothesizing, and then actually testing it. And yeah, hopefully this kind of gives you like a little bit of insight into, like, I don't know, how to think like a web app pen tester, if that makes sense. All right, I'll give you all a minute to think about what can we do from here. We can create products. That's cool, but what else? That's kind of boring, right? I don't just want to flood the application with random products. And while that's doing that, let's let me flip over. I've just seen there's like 500,000 pinned questions. So let me check in with the questions. Oh, this is a good one from Ethan. How do you get over roadblocks when you feel stuck? I make cups of tea. Honestly, every single breakthrough I've ever had, or everything that I've done, like, I was stuck in an exam and I couldn't figure out this Privesk, and I went, made a cup of tea, came back, and then got it within like 30 seconds. So generally speaking, if you're doing something that requires like a CTF or a pen test or something like this that requires focus, but also not to fall into rabbit holes. I mean, if you're like drawing or doing some art, then just keep going, stay in the flow. But if you're stuck on a problem, or you're trying to troubleshoot something or fix some code, every 25, 30 minutes, take a 2-minute break. And honestly, you'll get like 3 times as far as you thought you would, because every time you take a break, like, you can take a step back. Your brain just subconsciously looks at things from like a slightly higher level, rather than just like hyper fixating on stuff, and then it just solves the problem. So I think this is the biggest thing, is taking breaks is the trick for sure. Yeah, this is also a good point. So this is already impactful. So if we're on a pen test and we can create products, we can we can flood the application, we can mess things up, and things like this. And I would say that like this is obviously quite a severe finding. This is definitely something that we have to report. But my main point for this CTF or this box is that you always want to keep like going forwards. Like, what else can we do? What more things can we do? What else can we find, for example? And I think if you're doing bug bounty, you might find something that's like a low finding or like a not very interesting finding. And then being able to take that and go deeper with it, you're going to get a much higher payout. So this is really, really important if you're doing bug bounty. I would say less important if you're a consultant, because if I found this and then they fixed it, that's fine. Like the chain gets blocked and it ends there. But if I'm doing bug bounty, this is like going further is like my food and rent and everything else. So we always want to go further. Yeah, I think Louis is on the right track here. So this is actually, so it shows this like button image because I didn't get around to getting Midjourney to make loads of images for me, which is what I usually do. But this is also interesting. Yeah, we could try and put another image in. We could try and understand what's here. So here we have a product. And we've got like the ID, we've got the name, description, price, and then, yeah, this image here. So this image here is like default.jpg. We could maybe think about an SVG, for example. And let's see. Let me scroll up. Let me see if somebody's like blatantly thrown out the answer. Where are we? I'm lost in the chat. I apologize. I can't remember where I left off, and then I can't find where I'm coming back in. So, yes, malicious cats. This is the way. This is always the way. This is the new answer to everything, the life and the universe. Do I do bug bounty? So I do like maybe 2 hours of bug bounty a week because I'm busy. I'm a very busy person. Like I'm working, writing code, trying to stay healthy, you know, or everything else. But if I had more time, I would do more bug bounty. But currently, it just my life just doesn't allow. All right, so let's do 1338, and let's try a typical XSS payload. So instead of just flooding the application with products, we could actually try and find some meaningful impact for users. And if this works, this is actually stored XSS as well. So we could get code to execute on anybody who lands on the home page, for example. So if we refresh this, we have stored cross-site scripting. Now, the funny thing is that this may seem like a simple payload, but I tell you now, and especially if you go onto GitHub and test them, because I know because I've found so many like CRMs with the same thing. As soon as you're an administrator or you found some kind of auth bypass or access control bypass, cross-site scripting defenses go out the window. I have no idea why. Everybody's like, oh yeah, my users, when they send messages to each other, everything has to be really solid. As soon as a moderator gets to go in and edit a comment, no cross-site scripting defenses. What is with that? Because they're like, oh yeah, you know, I want my moderators to be like, they can make this, you know, add some custom HTML or make this pretty or whatever else it is. The number of reasonably large CRMs and things like that, where I've found where if you just log in as an admin or as a moderator or somebody with the tiniest bit of privileges, whether you get given those or whether you find a way to become that through another vulnerability, which, you know, today's all about chains, right? Cross-site scripting is fair game. And so I feel like this is something that a lot of people look out for, overlook. A lot of engineers might overlook in that they spend a lot of time worrying about their users and they don't spend enough time worrying about their administrators, for example. And to be honest, most administrators, their password is like, you know, cats123 anyway. So even then, being like you know, it requires privileges as a defense is not a valid defense against you know, having weak security controls against things like XSS. So anyway, so this is the full chain. So we went from pretty quickly, like looking at the application. We had a quick look at the endpoints, and then obviously, like, we found this this pretty easily because one, I knew it was there, but two, this is quite easy to find. If you do some basic fuzzing, you're testing different HTTP methods. You're going to test different endpoints with like Kite Runner and maybe like the asset notes API list. Or like the API routes, for example. I mean, it's going to find /product in like 2 seconds. So this is a really basic endpoint that's very easy to find. And then all we needed to do is to make sure that we had the correct payload. So the name, description, price, which we got from the error message. We needed to make sure we had the content type in the header. And then from there, we just need to then start testing for things like injection, cross-site scripting, and things like that. And that is kind of like I don't know how many steps there was, like 5 steps to finding stored XSS. And I bet you, and this isn't like to bash Burp Suite Scanner at all, because I think Burp Suite Scanner is excellent, but Burp Suite Scanner didn't find this issue. So there you go. And that's why chaining vulnerabilities is really important. And probably, to be fair, if I right click and then send this particular endpoint to the scanner, it might actually find it. But just scanning the application and being like everything is fine is not the way to go. And you know, I teach this in my classes. I'm like, don't be like a human scanner. Always think about like what you have, where you can go with it, and that's the important thing. So the PWPE, obviously the paths are a little bit more complicated than this, but this is kind of like the mindset that the PWPE exam focuses on. This is what it's like trying to test you on, is like, do you understand what you can look at? Do you understand what responses you're getting? Do you understand the behavior? And can you test that like accordingly? I mean, maybe you don't fully understand why something's happening, but can you make like a hypothesis and be like, I'm going to test this because this is happening, and then keep it like following the paths to eventually find some impact, I think is the that's like the philosophy of the PWPE exam. All right. Let's see. Let me go back to some questions. So like I say, I have some other stuff I want to add into this CTF, but it'll be on my GitHub at some point over the next couple of weeks. There's a few more, you know, like paths that I want to put in, or like challenges that I want to put in. So you can keep an eye on that if you want to. All right, let me go back to answering some questions. A little bit shorter than usual, because obviously we're just doing one exploit. But hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully that's like some insight into like the mindset that I think we should have. Like, you know, like I say, I don't know everything. I know like this tiny amount of everything. It's 0.0001% of everything that I know. Let's see what other questions we have. We've only been going an hour, so I can answer a few more. So we're all good. Oh, have I tried API6 API scanner? No, I haven't. I should give it a try though. I was planning on doing some comparison between a bunch of different tools. It's on my in my backlog, but I just haven't gotten around to doing it. But yeah, I definitely will at some point for sure. Let me keep scrolling down. Oh, you're doing the bug bounty course. Nice. I would say if you need extra practice, work through Portswigger Labs. This is your best bet. So as soon as you've done like something in there, especially the Portswigger mystery labs. If you switch on the mystery mode, I think this is a really good way to test your methodology, especially if you want to get into bug bounty. Let me keep scrolling down. Yo, what's up? Very interested in hacking. Good foundation in programming like C. Can I give some tips? Nice. That sounds awesome. What I would say is be curious, find some interesting side projects, and remember that like cybersecurity and hacking, the way to be good is to understand technology. So if you find an interesting project, whether it's like, maybe you build a tool in C, whether it's related to pen testing or not, it's still actually probably going to be beneficial in the long run anyway. So yeah, that's what I'd say is try and get involved in the community, try and work on some interesting projects. That's the best thing you can do, I think. And just keep developing those skills. Let me keep scrolling down. Ooh, as many vulnerabilities there are in the wild, I can't find one. Any approach I'd recommend? So it sounds like you're talking about bug bounty. And I think the best way to do bug bounty, to find something, is there's kind of like two ways. Either you try and find like attack surface that nobody else has gotten to yet. So really focus on your recon and finding stuff that other people might not have already found. Or I would say go really deep onto some vulnerabilities or into some kind of like, have 2 or 3 vulnerabilities that you're really, really good at finding. They're both kind of like different approaches. I would say that for me, now that I've improved my recon, I think that's probably the better way to go, rather than going really deep, unless you have access to source code, which if you have access to source code, then it's easier to go deeper, I think. But yeah, focus on finding endpoints, applications that nobody else has looked at, and that means maybe going with a program that has a slightly bigger scope or larger scope, or maybe with a program where they're acquiring like new companies, for example, and then those new companies that are acquired are then added into the bug bounty scope, and then you can hit them day one. This is also like a good strategy. I think this is the best way to go. The other thing that can help you is some automation. So for example, for the couple of bug bounty targets that I've been looking at long term, I have a bot that basically crawls them every so often. And if there are any changes to endpoints, I know about it straight away. So if they push an update or a change, then my bot will notify me. And so that means that I'm basically the first to see those updates, even if they're not really visible on the front end. I know that the back end has changed because, like the content length is slightly different, or something like this on a page that shouldn't have changed. So I'd say those are like the best ways to move forward, I think, for sure. But if you are talking about, bug bounty is hard. There's no getting around that, unfortunately. It's tough. So, yeah. So with our current application, we don't have any authentication here. How do I switch back? So there's no login for this app. It's really simple, but maybe next time I do have a good lab for this. So next time I'll try and remember, and we'll do some like session hijacking or like session riding stuff. That could be fun. All right, let me check back in with the chat, and then I'm going to answer a couple more questions, and I think we'll wrap up today. What is my recon methodology? Yeah, this is a good question. It's honestly not very mature. It depends on the target, but what I can tell you is a lot of the methodology that I've built up for me is based on Jason Haddox's bug bounty recon course. So you can view his, he's done some like DEF CON talks and stuff. You can check them out on YouTube. I did his live training, took some tools from there that I really, really liked. And then basically I used that as part of my methodology, which is a lot of like, you know, finding apex domains, finding domains that belong to an organization. Maybe the organization doesn't even know those domains belong to them, for example. And yeah, really going like that extra 10% basically on top of what everybody else is finding. So yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert in recon. I'm more of like I like to read code, code review person, but I would say Jason Haddox's stuff on that is the way to go. But I have like notes and things, and then with my targets, like I say, I set up bots to monitor them. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people do. I don't think a lot of bug bounty hunters monitor targets. And so some of them do for sure, but I think that's something that I do that other people don't do. And that helps me find stuff because, you know, this is something that like not everybody does. But I don't touch things like I don't use nuclei, for example. There's a bunch of other tools or common things that a lot of people do that I don't bother with. I have my own kind of methodology. All right. Oh, how do I search for write-ups? Go to ctftime.org. And then I think for all of the past CTFs, they do have links to write-ups, if I recall. Obviously, like you can follow people on social media and you'll see stuff as well. But I think when an event passes on CTF time, then it's been easily a year since I looked at it, but you can go to like past events and then go to read the write-ups for that event, or at least the ones that got like accepted. I think this is a good way to find write-ups. Yeah, this as well. I think it's like the similar topic to like DEF CON and things like that. He's done a bunch of different talks, but I would recommend his live training for sure. It was like I got a lot out of it. So yeah, all good. All right, last question. How to become an application security engineer? Yeah, this is a good question. I would say definitely like solid development skills. I think like whilst you can get by without really solid development skills, having good development skills will pay dividends. It'll make your life so much easier. So I think this is really, really important. But also think about like the different phases of the development life cycle. So thinking about like threat modeling and design patterns and how software should be kind of like architected so that it is robust and scalable and has good performance and all these other things. So doing a little bit of study about systems architecture, I think is really, really beneficial. And then with those two things, like understanding a bit about architecture, having good development skills, you can then really dive deep into AppSec, understanding vulnerabilities, looking at why code is vulnerable, tracing inputs like sources and sinks. How does information or data flow through an application? Where is it stored? How is it retrieved? How is it handled? Where does the filtering take place? You can really dive into these things and really understand them. And then also you can look at automated tools and pipelines and things like this. Because I think like when we talk about like application security engineers, some of them are basically just like implementing automation. But some of them are doing like code review. Some of them are doing like pre-release audits. You know, it kind of like varies a lot. But I think like everything's underpinned by those two things: is understanding architecture and understanding code. And I think you can be very successful. All right, and I think that's it for today. check out the PWPE if you want to check it out. Obviously, like I say, there's the summer sale is on at the moment, so you can get cheap access to the academy, or you can get like 20% off certs. Probably cheaper live training. I can't remember all of the stats exactly, but if you go to the website, it tells you everything. And then yeah, if you enjoyed today's stream, then hopefully you'll be back next week. I'm not sure who's streaming next week, but next time maybe we'll try and do some auth stuff. But otherwise, have a great rest of the day, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully the weather is as good as it is here where you are, because it's boiling today in England, which is quite a nice for a change. It's like the one hot day we have per year. So life is good here, but otherwise, yeah, catch you all next time. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.